Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in. We are so excited to support the Hire Black initiative and for Vettery to be part of their first virtual summit. My name is Maisie Silverman, and I'll be your moderator today. I started my career at Vettery over 2 years ago. Currently, I am the Senior Associate for Brand and Communications at Vettery and help run all content strategy and social media efforts. I'm very excited to be hosting this panel today with our lovely Vettery panelists who will be addressing some hot topics in the hiring space right now. In this panel, we'll be covering a few key topics, including navigating the remote job search, onboarding remotely, gauging remote culture, compensation, and then diversity and inclusion in hiring. As a marketplace for job seekers and employers, Vettery is committed to opening opportunities and creating meaningful connections for all. In an effort to drive diversity and inclusion through that process, Vettery is taking action by expanding our pipeline, promoting education and awareness, and personalizing hiring needs. Currently, we have over 76,000 live candidates on our platform and are getting over 1,000 new candidates per week. We stand behind Hire Black initiative's goal to help 10,000 Black women get trained, hired, and promoted. This new partnership aligns seamlessly with Vettery's own diversity and inclusion goals of giving everyone a fair chance at a meaningful career by supporting programs that celebrate diverse talent and campaign for a more inclusive employment. Now I'll have our panelists each introduce themselves. Erica?
Thanks, Maisie. Hi, I'm Erica Yamamoto. I am the VP of Marketing here at Vettery. And I have been with Vettery for just 4 months, but have a career in marketing. Before that was in a business operations role. And then before that, actually started my career in the finance world. So very excited and honored to be a part of the panel and to support Hire Black today.
Hi everyone, my name is Brooke Henn. I'm one of the senior recruiters over here at Vettery. I joined the team back in January of 2018 and initially helped hire over 100 salespeople over the course of my first few months. I now focus primarily on our senior level hires across all teams.
Hi everyone, I am Kelly Barnum. I am the Senior Manager of Candidate Experience here at Vettery. I've been here for over 3.5 years now. I started as an individual contributor and have been working on this team since. We started as a very small team of 5 people and have been able to see that grow. So before that, I was in the recruiting industry for 3 years, so very excited to be here today.
Hi everyone, my name is Sam Swatsky. I manage our customer success team here at Vettery. Personally, I've been at Vettery for a little bit over 2.5 years, similar to Kelly before that, was also in the technical recruiting space, so very familiar with this whole industry, but excited to be here today.
Hi everyone, my name is Srilaya. I have been with Vettery for over 2 years now. I'm a software engineer on the tech team. And before that, I was doing tech all the time in my life. So very happy to be here and presenting my views over this topic.
Awesome. Thanks so much, everyone. With that, let's just go ahead and dive into our first topic. So the first theme is navigating the remote job search. Brooke, when applying to jobs, we often find ourselves struggling to make ourselves stand out from other candidates, especially with the new remote work setting recruiters are looking for when picking candidates for the initial screen.
Sure. So when it comes to this new remote world that we're living in, Vettery has hired a handful of employees during this pandemic, and something that's always top of mind for myself as a recruiter, but also my hiring managers, are those soft skills that really cater to remote work. So, a big one for us is someone who's organized and can really prioritize their workload. companies also want to see adaptability. I think, we've all experienced now that things change, and companies really need someone who can roll with the punches. So for candidates, I always say it's important to think of examples when you've had to adapt to change, and really make sure that you bring those up in your interviews. And, I think when companies think about a growth mindset, employers want someone who will continue learning new skills, because things are always evolving. So if you've had the opportunity to upskill or take classes during this time, I think you definitely want to work those into your conversations as well. As a recruiter, I always think it's something that stands out to me when I interview candidates, especially now that people typically have more downtime. So I would say it's a really great sign to see candidates taking advantage of the opportunity to really further build out their skill set. So I would say that, the key is really to find ways to differentiate yourself from other candidates during the process. So think of ways to highlight your personality so that you stand out and really show your enthusiasm for the opportunity. I think a really easy way to do that is to show that you did your research on the company, during your interview conversations.
Great. So Sam, being in sales, you have a lot of experience networking and communicating with multiple clients. Do you have any tips for candidates on how to network in this new setting?
Yes, definitely. So of course, one of the biggest changes to networking nowadays is that it's all done remotely. So with that in mind, it's more important than ever to really leverage your social networks. So, using things such as LinkedIn to strike up conversations is really important nowadays. I would say another great way to network these days is to sign up for different webinars and informational sessions in your field. Afterwards, always send a message to the speaker if there's, a message or a topic that related to the dialogue, and really strike up those conversations. It's always great to connect with others that share those common interests and goals, and just leaders in the industry that are always happy and, really wanting to help other people in the industry.
Great. And then as for technical skills, how can upskilling during this time help a candidate? Do you have any tips on showing these skills on your resume or in an interview specifically for tech?
Yeah, sure. I mean, upskilling during any time is beneficial when someone is in the field of tech, because we all know the technology is growing really fast. I find myself out of date every year or something. So it's always good to have keep learning and that kind of a mindset where you're growth mindset. Not only it makes you feel confident in your job, but also when we are hiring, when we are looking for people on our team, we tend to tend towards the people who have this kind of a growth mindset and who want to learn things. On that note, how would you put it on your resume is there are a couple of ways that you can do it, either through your side projects. If you're learning some new technology and you're working it in your free time and you want to put it up that, hey, I also know this, because sometimes we get restricted with the projects we are working on in our company. So along with your professional experience, you can also put your personal projects on your resume. That's a good way of showcasing the new technology you've learned. And also a very good another way of learning new tech is through platforms like GA. Actually, we just collaborated with our sister company GA, and they have some great courses, and you can also get a certification once you do a course. So that can also be posted on your resume or on your LinkedIn. And there are several tech courses, and we are the exclusive hiring marketplace to help these some new grads who have not had any professional experience, especially.
Great. I know we're really excited about that partnership, so definitely recommend checking those courses out. And then Kelly, as manager of candidate experience at Vettery, you work with a lot of candidates who are actively interviewing. What do you think are the top 3 questions employers are asking potential employees in virtual interviews?
Yeah, so we have definitely seen a bit of a shift in questions beyond the typical, what are your strengths and weaknesses, and why do you want this role when it's coming to virtual interviews. Some top questions that have come up surround a few different themes. One being, how do you prioritize multiple important tasks? Highlighting your ability to stay organized and schedule your day is more important than ever with the shift towards remote work, as Brooke mentioned. Another notable question we've seen become more popular has been asking about what tools you'll need in your workspace to be successful in your day-to-day. Since we're working from home, it's imperative to know any key things you found to be useful in your space in order to be productive. And lastly, how do you communicate and collaborate with other team members? Since you likely won't be meeting team members in person, potential employers definitely want to know how you're going to work in a team setting, especially when you can't have a face-to-face conversation in the moment.
Awesome. So now we are going to be pivoting to our next theme of onboarding remotely. Erica, we are so happy to have you join as the VP of Marketing at Vettery. You started while we were all remote. Can you just talk a little bit more about your remote onboarding process and, if you have any tips to help ease this transition?
Yeah, so it was definitely a first for me. This is the first full-time position that I've had that was fully remote. I've historically worked at companies that were very much an in-office culture. So trying to build that personal connection, and I'm really motivated by that team and working with a team, and obviously I have to also lead a team, was a real challenge, but I think was able to manage through that. I think the number one thing is over communication. So I would say for the first few weeks, my calendar was pretty much booked from 9 to 5. I would say I always set time for lunch. So definitely I made that mistake my first day, but like after that, I booked 12 to 1 every day, even if you can't take the full hour. Setting aside some time to get up and go walk around and eat and take a break is so important. But with all those other hours, really trying to just focus on meeting with people, really connecting with people, and being able to communicate with them over video conference, right, is so critical. Setting aside time for that personal connection. So, our marketing team is about 7 people, and we obviously interact with lots of people. Vettery is a smallish company of 100 employees. So is a good opportunity to gradually get to know everybody and get to meet everyone at some point. So setting aside time, whether it's like making sure to go to the happy hours that our company was great about arranging, virtual happy hours, of course, or, setting aside like a lunch hour with my team, or, separate, smaller team meetings, right, to really get to know folks and talk about things other than work, was so important to really start building that personal connection. Before I even joined, I put together like an about me doc. So before I got to the company and started on my first day, I sent that to my team and shared a little bit, like it was just a page of my background, my working hours, how I like to communicate, that I prefer, Slack and long emails if needed, right? But over like, a phone call, and like shared a little bit about my family, like my daughter, and I have a dog, right? And things that hopefully gave a little more context on who I am. And then I think a couple other things that have been really helpful just for the onboarding process. Goal setting, right, I think is really, really important when you are in this remote environment. You kind of don't hear the chatter that's going around. How do you make sure that your team, other teams are aligned? As part of the leadership team, it was really important that I had goals for my team that were in line with what the business was trying to accomplish, and aligned with obviously other parts of the business that directly influence, the work that we're doing. So very early on in my onboarding, spent a lot of time just trying to figure out how do we create those quarterly and year-long goals, right, to really align my focus and rally the team around certain areas and make sure we stay focused, because I think it can be really easy to get distracted by a lot of different competing priorities. And again, when you don't have that in-person connection, it can be really tough. The last thing I just wanted to highlight, because I think in this virtual environment, it becomes so exhausting, right? Having to be on Zoom calls every single day. We are such an awesome culture in that we allow for unlimited PTO. So our team mates can, kind of take unlimited vacation throughout the year, but, that comes with challenges where people sometimes forget to book that. And I think especially, in this remote environment where people aren't necessarily traveling or going away, feel like they don't want to waste PTO. So I made sure to set aside time, just took a week off a couple weeks ago. So about a quarter in from when I started. And, it's so important to take that reset time, because it really can just be so exhausting to work in this new remote world where it's not easy to kind of step away from the office environment.
Definitely agree. It's good to disconnect sometimes. Kelly, do you have any success stories of candidates being hired remotely from Vettery during COVID-19, and any other additional tips for candidates when onboarding remotely?
Yeah, definitely. We've had actually quite a few job seekers land a new role and start remotely during the pandemic. Vettery is really unique in how we connect job seekers and employees in many ways, but I think one of the key highlights is the speed in which we're able to facilitate the hiring process. Typically, it only takes us about 30 days to help make a hire, which is considerably faster than the usual process. This has definitely become a lot more important during these times, since both job seekers and employers are looking for quick turnarounds. Once a candidate has landed their new job, the onboarding process is definitely a little different than it typically has been in the past. Some advice we're giving to candidates are to be transparent and ask new employers upfront about what the onboarding process will look like. Some may do things completely online. They might ship you all of your tools that you're going to need. Others may have you meet in person to collect your things and get key information that you're going to need to be successful. These are things that you're not going to know unless you ask. Definitely best to prepare yourself with those expectations and what that's going to look like around your start date. Since we're seeing a lot more people dispersed right now from their usual mailing address, it's really important to get that on the table as early as possible so that you can make sure that you coordinate logistics.
Awesome. Pivoting to our next theme of gauging remote culture. Sam, how are companies showing candidates their unique culture throughout the interview process?
So that's a great question, and I think companies are really all dealing with it in their own unique way. For the most part, one of the big trends we've seen, since candidates, of course, can't go into the offices, really get to feel out the environment, most companies that we work with have been adding additional conversations with candidates that are just more about the cultural fit, the values of their company, making sure they're able to meet a variety of people on the team, not just the one team they'll be working with, but across different divisions, different parts of the company, really get a sense for that total feel. So it's really great they can get a little bit better of a sense there. And then I would say another thing companies are also addressing sooner in the interview process, since kind of like Erica mentioned, it is a big hurdle when candidates are going through that acceptance of a job fully remote, is talking a little bit more about the onboarding process and how that works remotely to make candidates feel much more set up for success going into the culture of a new role, a new job, and getting to know their teammates personally. So it kind of goes right into what Erica said, starting that conversation a little bit sooner in the interview process to make candidates feel more comfortable going into it.
Definitely. And then, what questions do you find helpful for candidates to ask when speaking to gauge a company's culture and values? Kelly?
Yeah, so since you're likely not getting the opportunity, as Sam mentioned, to really gauge culture in the office setting, this is a super important question and something that job seekers should definitely be focused on. It's important that candidates know what kind of environment and culture they thrive in before even starting their remote interviews, as you'll really need to be able to align with the answers that are given during the interview process. So some questions to ask are, what are you most proud of about the culture at your company? What's something that you'd like to change about it? What does the feedback chain look like in your organization? Is it very top down? Is it only during one-on-ones? Is it only during annual reviews that you're going to get feedback? Or if you have to give feedback, how can you best do that? And how does your company celebrate success on an organizational, team, and individual level are definitely all questions that we recommend asking.
Definitely. And then being on the tech team, what are your favorite parts of Vettery's culture and how are you highlighting that to candidates in interviews?
So one of the favorite parts of Vettery's culture is definitely the collaboration we have within the team as well as between different teams. There have been so many occasions we have collaborated. Like we recently last year did Girls Who Code, in which like we invited young girls with exciting ideas, and we kind of had groups and like worked with them to develop some app. Like it's like a whatever we do on our day-to-day basis, we were like doing with them, and it was definitely so much fun. And also like to spread the knowledge we have to them, like show them the real picture, how the world looks like if they do end up like in this industry. I could totally see myself in them, like the younger me in them. And the way we kind of bring it while interviewing is like definitely talking about the stuff like and asking also the candidates like what are the things they would like, you know, get stuck with, or like how do they reach out for help, because it's really important to actually not knowing someone and like, you know, remotely like talking to them, it can be hard. So we just like make it a point that that's how we survive. Actually, we are so good in communication and like being there for each other, especially in tech team. So that's how we highlight that.
Great. And then just echoing some of our past CSR partnerships, Brooke, you have spearheaded Vettery's internal CSR efforts. Can you talk about to use this culture and continue to do CSR while remote?
To have the opportunity to bring internal CSR initiatives to our employees here at Vettery. You know, for us, it's critical that we're not only making a difference in our industry, but also in the communities that we work in. So through our CSR initiatives, we really aim to provide individuals, you know, no matter their circumstances, the opportunity to achieve a meaningful career. So we have had the opportunity to partner with a variety of organizations, a few including City Meals on Wheels, where we help deliver meals, as well as Dress for Success. And what we've realized is, you know, working together in the community really allows our employees to give back, connect, and, you know, really appreciate one another. And it also allows them to bring that collaboration back into the workplace. Now, unfortunately, due to the pandemic, we have had to shift away from some of our more typical in-person volunteer opportunities that we offer. However, you know, one organization that we've been able to partner very closely with virtually is Year Up. So Year Up is an organization that is trying to close the opportunity divide by ensuring that young adults are able to gain, you know, skills, experiences, and also support that will ultimately, you know, help empower them to reach their potential through careers and higher education as well. So our employees have really been able to participate in speed networking events, as well as mock interviews with their students. So we work with them on fine-tuning their networking skills, their elevator pitches, and, you know, even interview skills as well. So we're really continuing to do our best to make sure that we provide opportunities for our employees during this time, and ones that also align with Vettery's core values as well.
Great. And then Erica, you mentioned this earlier, but you have a young daughter at home. Many women are currently navigating how to be a mom while working remotely. Do you have any tips for dads or moms who are currently in a job or looking for a new job to gauge if the culture will be understanding of this work-life balance?
Yeah, so I'm really excited about this question. Thank you for asking that. You know, as difficult of a time as this has been, I do think COVID and this new remote work environment that a lot of companies have had to shift to has really shed light on the importance of balancing, right, your work life and your home life together. I've been in startups now for a while, and it has been a notoriously in-person culture. And it's had very much this mentality of you have to come into the office to demonstrate that you're working hard. And but I think this new normal has forced the conversation to see that, you know, there really is a way to balance remote work and to make remote work possible. You know, me personally, I live in the suburbs and was previously commuting into our office in Manhattan. And I would take, you know, 3 hours a day, just dropping off my daughter at daycare, getting onto the train, you know, obviously, even though it was a pretty straight, you know, forward commute, would take up, you know, hours of time that I wasn't either interacting with my office mates or being able to spend time, obviously, with my daughter. And so now it's pretty amazing to have her around all the time. And I'm very lucky to have in-home care with my mom is supporting us right now in having childcare. But being able to see her throughout the day and pitch in has just been great. But I know this also isn't for everyone, and some people really miss that office culture and want to, you know, go to a place where they allow for that. So I think, you know, I think the biggest thing that we can do as parents is to be very upfront in these interviewing processes, to ask for these things, right? Like really ask these questions. I hear a lot of people that are just afraid to ask the questions because they think it'll hurt their chances. Frankly, if you're going to be in an environment and a culture that doesn't support, you know, whether it's the flexibility of being a hybrid model, fully remote or fully in office, right? Then it's probably not the team culture you want to be a part of. And so I think it's really important that we set that precedent, and especially as women, right? I think we tend to shy away from asking questions like that, where it is so personal, right? And you don't want to make it look like it's not. You don't want to seem like you have a lesser commitment to your in-office attitude, but really, it is such an important part of who you are, and I feel that way personally. And so I think it was really important before I joined Vettery to understand, you know, what type of environment we were going to be in.
Great. And now moving on to our next theme of compensation, specifically combating the gender wage gap. And then Erica, I'm going to go back to you, but as a female leader and part of Vettery's ELT, what is your advice on knowing your worth and ensuring that women are fairly compensated to combat this gender pay gap?
Love this. This is like tough question after tough question. So do not settle. You know, I was very lucky throughout my career to have women that I could reach out to and former mentors, where I could just be very honest, and friends too, just asking up front of what they're making, depending on their industries, right? Just getting a better sense. I think, you know, compensation has always been this very cagey, secretive thing because, well, frankly, like from a employer standpoint, it can get competitive. And, you know, I think the recruiters could probably, the people with recruiting backgrounds could tell us more on this panel, but right, it tends to be like something that companies are secretive about because they don't, you know, they're trying to hire the best talent and have the best package, right, that they can bring you on board with. But I think it's, as a job seeker and as a potential candidate, we have to be open about it. I very much lean on like networks like a Hire Black. I'm part of a leadership women's network called Chief. These are forums and networks where I can lean on other women and ask for their perspective. And I think that's totally fine and something that we need to be talking more and more about. And then just from like a pure resource standpoint, like, look, the internet has opened up tons of opportunities to drive that transparency. I think companies like PayScale, Glassdoor, LinkedIn, Indeed, right? And then certainly even in Vettery, like we have data and salary guides that we put out, but specific, you know, obviously to technology and sales industries where we're specializing. But a lot of these resources are out there and worth doing the extra research to support, you know, whatever you feel is fair compensation for you.
So Kelly, how does Vettery help combat this problem and promote salary transparency?
Yeah, definitely. So this is a huge selling point for Vettery. We want everyone to have the ability to be upfront about their salary expectations. We encourage every job seeker that creates a profile to do their research on the salary range for someone in their role, in the areas that they're interested in, with the years of experience that they have. As Erica mentioned, there's lots and lots of guides out there that have that type of information. The number that they put in their profile on Vettery is something that we want the employer to see and know from day one when they reach out. So it's supposed to be a number that they would be comfortable with if you were to receive an offer today. No one's going to tell you what that number should look like. So we really allow each individual candidate to make that decision for themselves. This transparency early on really allows both the employer and the job seeker to be on the same page for a very key determining factor, and helps facilitate the speed at which the hiring process can move, since expectations have been laid out early on.
Great. And then finally, as a woman in tech, do you have a specific example from your career? If so, how did you navigate being compensated fairly as a woman in tech?
As a woman in tech, of course, like when I got my first job in US, as probably everybody knows, I'm not from this country. Coming from a different country and a different culture obviously makes yourself a little fearful and like afraid of putting myself out there. So I was really shy, intimidated by all these smart people I was working with. And I was always project myself as someone less knowledgeable than them. But still I could solve some problems. So my boss back then gave me this advice, which kind of stuck with me. Is like, usually when it usually happens in our industry that when men usually never show their doubts and fears while taking up a task, and like they are really confident in showing that they can do the job. But like a woman would make it clear that, hey, I have not worked on this before. I think I'm going to struggle with this, or I'm going to take some time. So everybody's learning, everybody's growing, but the way we project ourselves is really important. And we should never feel inferior. Although we do feel inferior, everybody does that. Like there's always a first time, but like having learning that experience, and like this really helped me overcome my imposter syndrome. So that's something which I learned like in my previous jobs. But keep learning and believing in yourself is the key. And when it comes to compensation, I personally, as the other people said on the panel, that I personally do my research, and there are some goals which I have financially, like I have committed to some things in my life. So that is a very important factor for me. And then also like researching websites like Blind or like LinkedIn, and then Glassdoor. There is Know Your Worth in Glassdoor, which is also helpful, and Levels. So all these websites have like real-time data in which like people are posting anonymously, or you can also talk to your friends and kind of gauge. Also like in Vettery also we have the option in which people can quote what they want, and then the hiring manager can already know what they're looking for. So there is that kind of a transparency. So it should never be like a kind of decision-making thing when you can't really get that amount which you are looking for. And as Erica said, we should not settle for less. And there is always like, if you ask, it can be like a thing. Many people don't ask in a fear of losing their chance. That's also like something which I learned, and many of my recruiter friends at Vettery also told me the same thing.
Thanks for sharing your experience and also those tips. We're going to be moving to our final topic. So promoting diversity, equity, and inclusion has been core to Vettery's goals of creating a more inclusive workplace for all. Erica, what are some of the new initiatives Vettery has created in order to support DEI?
Thanks, Maisie. So for Vettery, and really I'm taking this from the position as a platform, sorry, you can hear little Raina in the background, my daughter. Our top priority is to really build a more diverse candidate pipeline, right? Because really, if we can bring a more diverse candidate pipeline, that means that our employers have a higher opportunity to bring in a more diverse talent pool. and hopefully we can encourage them through our resources and our network to drive a more inclusive culture as well. The way we're really focused on that are in 3 different areas. First, we identified and we needed the data, right, to really tell us, how diverse is our pool. We have about nearly 20,000 female, Hispanic, and African American or Black active candidates that are currently in our active pool, but we want many more than that. And one of the ways that we're proactively trying to expand our network, rather than traditional sourcing channels, is to build exclusive partnerships with organizations that can really help do that for us. So Hire Black is a great example of that, and we're so excited to get lots of women that we meet today onto the platform and connected to employers. Another organization that was highlighted earlier, Year Up, is one that we work with. The Knowledge House is one in the Bronx in New York, and many more that we are proactively looking to bring more and more candidates into our pipeline and to connect with the employers we work with. The second area that we see as a huge opportunity and that we've been trying to shed more light on is the importance of how remote work really can drive diversity and really a more inclusive workforce. I highlighted that earlier, and just, obviously for parents or working moms especially, right? Having a remote culture or more flexible remote work environment can help really reduce that location bias, and also just expands your pipeline, right? If you're able to hire for engineers, right, outside of just the small New York metropolitan area, you can reach a much more diverse base, and it can really help. And we have more resources and research on that on our website that we'd be happy to share. And then I think the last piece that's a real advantage to us is we are a part of the largest staffing company in the world. That's called the Adecco Group. It's snack time here, so very exciting time in the kitchen. The Adecco Group, and we have many other sister companies as part of that. One of the partnerships that we've built as part of the large organization is with General Assembly. General Assembly is obviously one of the largest reskilling organizations in the world, and really helps to train and upskill and reskill talent in your organization, especially diverse talent. And then obviously for other people who are just looking for a career change, right? And I think a lot of what can drive inclusivity and diversity in the candidate pool is just helping to train people with different backgrounds into these high demand roles, like in technology and sales that Vettery hires for. So those are just a couple of the initiatives that we're working on.
And then Sam, you work with some of Vettery's top clients. What are the clients currently doing to hire more diverse talent?
Great question. So kind of going off of what Erica said, many kind of overlapping or overarching themes, I would say, first off, many of the companies that we're working with are removing on-site work from the interview equation altogether. So really opening up their workforces so that they're able to be just as, if not more efficient while working remotely, and giving employees that long-term flexibility, saying, we don't need you to be back in the office. We will have this role be totally remote moving forward. It's really just opening up doors, and it's allowing them to tap into talent across the world, not just in their major metropolitan area. Kind of like Erica said as well, it also allows them to hire candidates that really just need a more flexible work schedule, such as parents or people with dependent people in their household, as well as candidates that just aren't able to do that commute, maybe due to a disability or it just being, very far away. So because of this, companies are really able to hire a more diverse range of people. I would say another thing that companies are doing right now is focusing internally on creating environments that really encourage a more diverse workplace through trainings, different awareness programs, and additionally providing opportunities for growth to a diverse candidate workforce. So companies are really able to increase diversity in top leadership positions, which encourages further diversity throughout the entire company.
And then, Kelly, as a candidate, what are some nice but direct questions candidates can ask to gauge a company's commitment to diversity?
Yeah, this is a really great question and something we encourage all job seekers to dig into during their interview process. I think a really simple question that anyone could ask is, what are the core values of your company? And can you tell me how you highlight and embody these values at an organizational and individual contributor level? Another one is to just ask directly what they do at an executive, management, and individual employee level to promote diversity and inclusion.
All great tips. So moving on to our final thoughts. We are just so happy to be included in the Hire Black initiative, and we will strive to continue to learn and to do better as individuals and a company. And then, does anyone just have any final thoughts on our panel?
Yeah, I will add to that. I honestly believe we're really only at the very beginning of this movement towards diverse thought and really understanding how important it is to bring diverse points of view into the workforce. I'd say now more than ever, our world is really becoming global, and having the understanding and contribution from many people of different backgrounds will just help companies put their customers' needs first and really listen to what they want. As we really continue to evolve, we need to recognize the validity of all points of view and really give a voice to those that have not, had a platform in the past, and really realize when we come together as companies and as nations, we're able to create something that's really greater than the sum of our parts. So focusing on how all of those pieces come together to really create better companies, better workforces, and more productivity.
I think that was so well said. So I think the only thing I would add is, I think, Vettery really, to plug Vettery at the very end here, but, we're really a hiring marketplace, and it's so important to us to represent both sides of this equation, right? Which is to represent the job seekers and the candidates on one side, and then the employers on the other, who obviously need to fill their hiring needs and to build great teams. Building great teams means, we have to have diversity in thought, as Sam mentioned, and really accepting different ideas, because it leads to better business performance. And I think there have been metrics that have proven that over and over again. But I think we are still very much in those early stages, but I think we are moving in the right direction. And I think just for the candidates and all the women here at the Hire Black Initiative today, right, it's really important to continue advocating for yourself, really connecting and building that community with other women and other people in your network like us. Like, we're happy to get connected and stay connected to really make sure that you're able to advance your career and really help to build those teams. So excited that we've even gotten started today, obviously, with this hugely successful summit, and hope to do a lot more from here.
Yes, we're so excited to be part of the summit. And I just want to thank all the panelists so much. Thank you all so much for showing up today. We really look forward to seeing you all on Vettery. Bye. Thanks so much.
Bye.
Carry on.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.